This study aims to examine the current governmental regulations of plastic bags in both Rwanda and Kenya through comprehensive case studies. And by doing this, I identify their strengths, and I also determine their feasibility of application of these bans in Thailand, in the Thai context, as well as other developing nations that have current plastic issues. So just to give a short background, the first fully synthetic plastic was invented in 1907, and soon thereafter, plastic became known as this material of 1,000 uses. And the plastic industry exploded. In the United States during World War II, the industry alone saw a growth of 300%, and by the end of the war, the entire world was using it. But the thing is that some countries feel the effects of plastic differently. So my personal experience in the middle-income Southeast Asian country of Thailand looks something like this picture, which is a direct representation to me of a fast-growing economy with a lack of infrastructure to support it, as well as a lot of tourism. But this plastic does more than just look ugly. It contributes to air, soil, and water pollution, and it covers and clogs the drains, which cause floods that look like this one. This happened in 2011. It caused billions of dollars in damage, affected many people, and it was heavily tied to plastic. And so that was the worst flood that the country had seen in decades. So the Thai government has taken some efforts to curb the immense problem that they're seeing in the country by establishing a 3R campaign. And this 3R campaign focuses on reducing, reusing, and recycling. So I classify their tactic as a social education tactic, which they implement through social media platforms, marketing tactics, techniques, and the actual education system in Thailand in order to change the habits of the people. So now that we know the Thai situation, I wanted to move on to Rwanda. This is a picture of Kigali, Rwanda's capital. Rwanda is a small sub-Saharan African nation, considered low-income by the World Bank, and their municipal waste system is impeccable. Private companies run the collection and transportation of the waste, and the state oversees the only dump for the city. But on top of their thorough municipal waste system, they've imposed one of the strictest bans in the world on plastic bags and packaging. So in Rwanda, it's actually illegal to manufacture, sell, and purchase thin plastic bags and packaging, and there are strict consequences if you go against this ban. A violation of the ban can actually result in a very harsh fine and even imprisonment. As you can see in this picture, this man, his business was raided, and he was, after that, taken away to prison in cuffs just for violating the ban. So in order to ensure the further success of the ban, on top of this tactic of fear that they've used here, the Rwandan government began teaching the Rwandan people the importance of the ban and negative effects of plastic during Umuganda. Which is in this picture here. Umuganda is a monthly cultural holiday which focuses on bettering society, in a sense. And this is something typically seen in Uganda, but it's also about helping your neighbors, helping the general public areas and things like that. And so the government takes this opportunity to educate the people on the importance and the reasons behind the ban. So to sum up, Rwanda uses a combination of fear and social education, as we saw in Thailand, and they've been very successful combining those two tactics. So now that Rwanda has been covered, let's look at our final case, Kenya. Kenya is a larger sub-Saharan African country. It's in East Africa, and the nation is classified as a lower middle income nation, and Nairobi is the capital city, which you can see here in this picture. Kenya's municipal solid waste system, however, is far from the best. Poor communities can't afford it, while the rich can, causing people of the lower socioeconomic status to live amongst trash and constantly open burn, like you can see in this picture, which causes issues in respiration, health, respiratory issues, and as well as contamination of the soil, which a lot of them depend on for farming. So the government has begun a circular waste system, and trash collection will soon only cost $1 to all citizens per month. But on top of their municipal waste system transformation, Kenya has imposed the most strict ban in the world. The manufacture, sale, and use of thin plastic bags and packaging is punishable by up to 4 years in prison, $40,000 for even holding a bag, or both. And on a more positive note, since this has been implemented, the flying toilet issue, which we can see here, is common in shanty towns with no plumbing, and it causes diseases and it has actually decreased dramatically since the ban has been implemented. Extreme flooding has also stopped, and the streets are generally a lot more clean. So even more exciting, the ban has sparked innovation amongst the people, both young and old. So young kids are making businesses out of leftover plastic, business owners are creating new types of bags for carrying things, and fishermen are making boats like this one completely made from recycled plastic to make statements about the ban and support. So all of this change was made through the sole tactic of fear, which stems from imprisonment and fines, which a majority of the population just can't afford. So unlike Rwanda, though, no social education or assistance was provided following the ban in order to assist the population in the transition to a more plasticless society. So with that said, I'd say it's easy to see that the best tactic is a mixture of the fear tactic and the social education tactic, where the fear brings that immediate change and the social education helped the people see the meaning and importance behind all of it, behind why the ban was placed and those negative externalities of plastic and why they shouldn't be using it. But when Thailand and these other nations start the process of regulating the plastic, it's important to first focus on developing a thorough municipal waste system, since that takes care of a big part of the problem by instilling some importance in the people, separating and knowing where the waste goes and how it's created. It cleans up the streets and it reduces the pollution. So after they establish that thorough municipal waste system, they can then go about writing up and proposing a ban, which would be, depending on the governmental structure, they would do that. Or they could also just amend an existing law like Kenya did in order to put it into action without waiting for agreement from multiple parties or stakeholders. But following the passing of the bill, it's going to sound crazy, but inducing fear through fines and imprisonment and those police raids in businesses and markets is really important. It makes the people think that you're serious about this, so they actually immediately change. But then on top of that, you have to implement that social education, the social education tactic through schools, marketing, social media. All of that is a really crucial step. But finally, to protect and create sustainable jobs, countries need to begin putting efforts toward changing industry from petroleum-based plastics to bioplastics, made with resources found locally, especially those developing countries in tropical areas like Thailand, where they have tons of resources like cassava and coconut husk and things like that to make the bioplastics out of. So that way, more beaches around the world can actually begin looking like this one, and these countries can be one step closer toward green sustainable growth in developing countries. Because I don't know about you guys, but it's pretty sad to see a beach like this on the internet, and when you arrive, it doesn't look anything like that. And I feel like using these tactics could be a really powerful way in implementing and changing people's behavior within the time frame that we actually have.